Hello there. I am R. Patrice Bryant, and I am the host of While We Wait. Today's topic is producing the best version of yourself. Have you ever asked yourself, what about me? Do you find yourself looking in someone else's life thinking, why don't I have that? Or why haven't I done that? Why haven't I achieved that? And then after you look into their life, do you begin to feel inadequate or less than? Today's segment of While We Wait is where you want to stay. Tell your friends, tell a neighbor, like, share, send the YouTube link to someone because today we're going to get answers from my special guest, Franziska Pannicke. And I'm so grateful that she's here. And also Michelle L. Perry, who's my co host, and she's the author of Successful Diligence and the author of The Pebble in My Shoe. Stay tuned for While We Wait because today is going to be epic. Be right back.
Wise. I live here. I stay strong. I stay wise. I live here. My life. I stay strong. I stay wise. I live here. My life. While we wait.
Hi there, R. Patrice Bryant here, the host of While We Wait. Welcome to my podcast listeners, to YouTubers, to Facebookers. We're so glad that you're here. Please let someone know that we're on today, and I'm back with my co-host, Michelle L. Perry. Let's get her out here. Hey, Michelle, how are you?
Hello, hello, and happy Thursday. It's time for While We Wait. Wait no longer. We are here.
We're not waiting for that. Yes, check that off of our list. And it's interesting you said that because as I was thinking about the name While We Wait, I had said it before, but waiting is not stagnation. It is not. It is an action word. So if you're waiting, we are waiting with purpose. There's that word we were just talking about. But we're waiting with expectation. So we are in motion, though we are waiting. So
It's a verb. It's not passive.
verb, absolutely. Absolutely. I am excited about today. And Michelle, did you have a good time last week with Miss Tina
Oh,
and
I
your backup plan?
loved last week's conversation because it's so important and so not focused on. That's an important one to go back and watch just
It
for
is.
life, foundation. You need to go back and utilize the resources. That was an excellent, excellent conversation.
It really was. And even how she brought out about the business and then digital assets. I was like, a digital what? So who knows about this? But, there's just so much. You know, we haven't had people a lot right close to us who have transitioned. So I mean, you never master it unless you do it by profession or I don't know.
There's so much that
For
you don't know. And even
exactly,
even me having gone through it, personally very recently, there's still so much you don't know. And even to prepare, and it's a lot. It's a whole lot. And it's so nice to have someone who is comfortable with that difficult, challenging conversation because
yes,
it's uncomfortable.
can be.
But it's important. So it was a really, really good conversation to go look at. Go listen and look at,
Yeah,
depending
yeah,
on what
yeah.
venue you're watching from.
Exactly. And I've actually, even being clergy and having to perform funerals, there's still that. I mean, I can assist somebody with, the program and those traditional type things, but just all of the business aspects of it, you really do need a backup plan and you need to take care of things now while you're level headed because your emotions are in your whole humanity is involved when we have someone that transitions. So go back and watch your backup plan with Miss Tina. It was incredible. So I'm so glad you enjoyed it,
And she's
Michelle. I
fun
know I
too.
did. She's and my favorite part again is was it the treasure box?
Yep.
Because whether somebody the treasure box is one of her modules that she talked about, and it's taking things that are sentimental and placing them in a box. And you can be as creative as you want to, and things can be passed down from generation to generation.
It's
Whether
legacy.
yeah, whether it's a piece of material, a shirt with your fragrance on it, some of your, your the families that have never met you, like, oh my God. I mean, of course they see pictures,
Or
but it's
even
so
like
much more.
you can do like a voice recording on a USB drive. You can,
Yeah,
upload pictures, and it can be whatever you want. It's so creative
it's
and such a
wonderful.
great idea to personalize for your family and your circle of people.
Absolutely. Even journaling, so they can see your handwriting in.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, thank you, Miss Tina, wherever you are. We so enjoyed you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't wait for you to come back again. So at this time, we're gonna bring out.
I was gonna
She's
say, speaking of coming back again, we have
yes.
epic conversation
Listen,
coming. If you have not shared this yet, and you're on Facebook or YouTube, share it. I'm telling you, get a notepad. This conversation is going to be epic. I'm so excited that you brought her back.
I listen. Well, we knew before she left that we were going to get her to come back because even the discussion the first time she was on While We Wait was just so enriching, so empowering. So without further ado, I know we'll keep making you wait, but without further ado, here's my girl, Franziska Pannicke. Hey,
Yeah.
hey.
The crowd goes wild.
Thank you for having me again.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you're back. So for those who weren't here the first time, Francisca is in Spain and it's like 10:30, a little beyond right now. It's nighttime. It's
Yes.
nighttime. So we're so glad she's back. Hey, Miss Fadette, thank you for showing up. Glad you're here. I got your girl back. Francisca, you talk my sister's language. I promise you. So I'm glad
Hi,
she's here
sister.
today. Oh man. It was, and I went back as I told you and watched that segment several times, and I was just like, it was just so good. So as I was preparing for you to come back, I was like, what else can we jump into, dig deep into, and unpack? And I was inspired by something that I was watching. I was watching a vlog, and it just made me think about Squeak from The Color Purple when she said, "What about me?" Because a lot of times, and it's just human to do it, but we look at someone else and we say, "That's what I want." I want that house, or I want to be that. I want to be this high profile person, and we have no idea. Number one, what the cost of becoming that is. And number two, we have no idea what their life was. And we talked about the celebrities while we were backstage. We were just talking. As much as I like Aretha Franklin, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and some other people, if their life is what it took for them to get there, and uh, Aretha sang out of a certain level of pain, and a lot of artists do. They sing out of a certain amount of emotion. I can't tell you that that's the life that I want to get to that status. And the other part is that may not be my assignment.
Mm.
And one thing that I've learned is that there's no greater fulfillment than being right in flat footed in your assignment. There's nothing like it. And when you're there because you just have a fulfillment, a satisfaction where you don't need to be validated. You don't need the pat on the back. There's
And
just
there's a
something that,
flow. There's a
yeah.
flow to life. I find,
Ah,
like, almost like I describe it being on like that conveyor belt at the airport where you just step on and
yeah.
you don't really have to work so hard. You still got to
It's
walk
not
and hold
hard.
on to your baggage. So you're doing stuff, but life is flowing for you and you're in your car, on your highway, in your lane,
In your
doing
lane.
you.
Good.
And
In
you
your
can wave
lane.
to other people, but
Yeah.
you're driving your car, which is what's important.
In your lane. That is critical. Being in your lane. So I'm gonna back up a little bit. I think I've said what I wanted to say so far. So Francisca, what about me? Let's talk about what about me.
Well, wait. Before we get into it, for those who
Sure.
didn't watch the first one, just give us a real brief summary about who you are, what you do, for those who didn't watch the
Yes,
first one.
because I'm like this. In my lane. 100 miles an hour.
So, my name is Franziska Pannicke. I'm a coach and I help high achieving individuals to take their power back so they can make bold life changes and create the life they love.
Ah,
I love
wonderful.
that.
And I do have Francisca's information, which I'll put up later. And she told us last time that we could DM her and get the assessment. I want you to know that I did, and I loved the assessment, because it wasn't just check off something from 1 to 5. Then you had to answer a question, and um, when you do these assessments, you want to be realistic, like be for real. You want to answer
Truthful.
not according to what you want to be, but for right where you are. That's the only way you're going to get, the real. So I love the assessment. It made me think, but I was very happy that I was able to answer pretty. I was like, oh, I know these answers, because and that's because I'm very much in tune with myself. I already know my strengths and weaknesses, but I'm a type of a person that would definitely consider utilizing someone like Franziska, because if I get a little bit of push, I'm gonna run hard and run well. I want to conquer. So yes. So we also last time we talked about getting your power back, and this time we're talking about producing the best version of who you are, because it's going to be very challenging for me to try to be Michelle or Francisca. It's not going to work too well.
It's not gonna work at all.
It's not.
For any of us to be anyone other than who we were created to be is not gonna work. And I
Absolutely.
always say this, people see you. So when you're trying to be someone else, people can see you and that you're not walking in the truth of who you really are supposed to be, created to be, and who you really are. And so it's so much easier to just be you because nobody else can do it.
No, no. So it's funny. We came out the gate, and well, actually, we were behind backstage, and the word success came out, and I started laughing because this was something that came out in my Bible class last night. So um, I'm gonna get, and then I'm gonna come back to you, Francisca. So success. Let's just see what old Miriam says.
Merriam-Webster.
Yeah. So the dictionary says the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. So and that wasn't Miriam. Miriam says the fact of getting or achieving wealth, respect, or fame. The
Well,
the
that's
correct
interesting.
the correct or desired result. Hold on, where's the rest of it? The correct or desired result of an attempt.
That's interesting. I find
Yeah.
that definition a little limiting. That's interesting.
I was gonna say I actually do not care about this definition because I'm gonna do my own definition. It's my life, so I define success. What is success for me? And that's what I'm
Favorable
looking for.
favorable or desired outcome. I like that one because it doesn't
Yes.
put you in a box. But we do know that success is measurable. But Francisca, let's talk about becoming
The
Sorry.
best
producing,
version of you.
yes, the best version of you.
Okay, so you mean about success, or what exactly do you want me to talk
So
about now?
let me jump in here
I'm at the
because
loss.
let me jump in here because when I talk about like being the best version of yourself, like on my show, and unpacking that language, it sounds really great. Let's be the best version of our. What does that even mean,
Rah
right?
rah.
Like, let's unpack. What does being the best version of yourself even mean? What does it look like? And then how do you actually implement and do it in your own life?
You see,
Good question.
when we grow up, we get influenced by the way we grow up, by our parents, by our friends, by our teachers. We get so much influence. There's so many things influencing us. So we create all these limiting beliefs and disempowering stories, and we create these negative patterns that we carry throughout our life. So, when you're an adult and you look back and you think, why am I always thinking like this? Why am I always saying this is not available for me? I am like this. It's like these cut in stone facts about yourself and about life. So you're limiting yourself. You
Mm,
cannot be your best version because you are not yourself anymore. So you need to get back to your authentic self of who you are and get rid of these limiting beliefs, these disempowering stories. You need to break these patterns to allow yourself to come forward again.
that was a lot right there. So you said breaking patterns.
Yes.
Come back to your authentic self. What does that look like? How do we do that?
You see, you have patterns like, for example, I was working with a client and she said, she always feels like pleasing and keeping the home clean and pleasing her husband, being there for children, but she's completely neglecting herself. She's not happy. She is like, she feels disempowered. And then we went back to her childhood. I said, I wanted to know, where did this all start, that you never think about yourself but about others? And then we found out that she grew up like this. It was always about, you have to be a certain way, because if you're not a certain way, it's not appropriate. We need to see what our neighbors are thinking about you, what are the friends thinking about you. So you need to always adapt. So she always felt like caged, and she took this pattern and applied it to her marriage, applied it to her work. She never broke it, even though she's not that little girl anymore that
Sure.
wants acknowledgement from her parents or from her friends. She's a woman now, but she didn't realize that she took these patterns forward in her life.
So interesting. So for someone that was not validated or didn't get good deposits of what would give them self-esteem, how would you tell them to how do they what do they do for themselves on this side of life once they're an adult? So if
You
you
know,
don't
once they grow up, they need to acknowledge that they're not a kid anymore. For example, you're not that kid anymore that wants to please her mother or her father. As children, we want our parents to love us. We want to be loved. We want to feel loved. So we do everything to get this type of love from them. So, but if we don't break this if it's a negative pattern, if we don't break it, we project this parent in our teacher, in our boss, in our husband, or in our wife, and then we start, for example, people pleasing, which is not healthy anymore. So first of all, you need to acknowledge you're not this kid anymore. So it served you at that time, but it doesn't serve you anymore. So
okay.
you just basically say, okay, you know what, I'm not this anymore. It doesn't just, it's an acknowledgement. Once you acknowledge it in your head, you realize when you do it, and you feel like kind of weird doing it, then just to have the awareness.
So it's funny because you're talking about are you talking about parents or anyone in your childhood. To me, or what I've had to do is remove expectations, so that I'm not disappointed, because you can keep getting disappointed because you keep wanting that. You want to be fed those things for your confidence or for your self-esteem. And if you're constantly looking for it and not getting it, or getting, I guess, like a negative response, then you keep getting disappointed. I had a conversation today, and I believe this is a very mature way to look at something, especially with a parent. I believe, and I've come into this understanding, that your parents were given an assignment to get you to earth. And many people have been very fortunate to get loving parents, nurturing parents. And again, I'm saying this is mature here. And if you get anything on the other side of being birthed here, that is an absolute blessing. But it doesn't happen in every situation. So I was just listening to you talk, and I believe a part of getting to your becoming the best version of you in that sense is first of all you have to let go, because what was. We can't go back and fix any of that. Sometimes you're able to repair relationships, but there are also sometimes when you just have to say, you know what, it is what it is, and it can be very painful, but it is what it is, and remove the expectation. But I have to say, I know that's a very mature way, especially because when you talk about parents or people that are so well, we say I don't know who said they're supposed to love us. I don't know, but we do have an expectation. When you say a parent or a grandparent or a family member, there is an expectation of a favorable embracing of you, but it's not always that. That's not always the case.
Yes, and that's where we need also forgiveness needs to come in, and we need to understand that, if you feel like your parents or your grandparents weren't treating you right, you need to also, from a mature point of view, understand that that parent came from trauma as well.
Sure.
It's like they had parents, they had their life before, they had the experience, so they have created patterns, they have had trauma that have never resolved, so they did their best they could do. I'm not
Yes.
saying it was enough or it was good, but they still tried their
That's
best.
what they knew to do. That's what they knew
Yes.
to do. Yeah.
If I can jump in, because this is
Please.
something that I have processed, dealt with, unpacked throughout
Please.
my entire life. Because my mother, I used to say she was not the mother that I wanted or thought I needed, right? And what I've come to realize is that she's exactly the mother that I needed to become the person that I am and was created to be. And Brian, you hit the nail on the head with the modifying those expectations. And Francisca, forgiveness for I had to forgive my mother for not having what I expected her to have. She just didn't have it. She did the best she could with what she had and gave her absolute all. And when I was able to manage my expectation through telling the truth, being self aware, getting rid of those old narratives, like Francisca was talking about, and rewriting the perspective, I was able to then appreciate what she did have to offer, the fact that she did birth me into life, because that's a choice. You don't have to birth a
True.
baby now, you can get
True.
rid of it. And so she chose to bring me in, and then she chose to keep me alive, right? And she chose to keep me and teach me and all the things that she did so well. And where she fell short, I'm a believer, God filled in the gap, right? And where the gap wasn't filled, it wasn't something that I needed to
Mhm.
become who I need to be, right? And so I think sometimes, and like you said, mature talk, telling the truth,
Yeah.
being self aware, rewriting those narratives, but that forgiveness piece is so key because it releases you to then take on a different perspective of that person, whether it's your parent, your spouse, your sister, whoever it is, and realize that exactly who they are is who you accept for them to be. And that might mean that they have a different place or role in your life for the next season, and that's okay.
That's good. How do you know when you've truly forgiven someone?
That's fascinating. And there's so much conversation about it. For me, when I experience true forgiveness, there's no pain in that place, there's
That's
peace in that place, or there's nothing.
okay.
And so that's when I know that forgiveness has happened, when sometimes I even forget about it. You know what I mean? Or forget even the like people that have hurt me or trauma that I've experienced, and
Hmm.
I've experienced some really deep traumas. When I was able to truly forgive in those deep places that we don't talk about,
Yeah.
there's peace, there's understanding, there's nothing, there's no emotion attached. It is what it is. And then I can then attach a meaning if I want to that experience to serve me going forward. But I think that there's let it go. I won't start
Yeah.
singing, but I mean that true forgiveness is when it really there's peace in that place where all of that other stuff was.
I
Yes,
believe
you
that.
stop going back, you stop dwelling, you stop drinking that poison, you
That's
release
good.
that person, you release that trauma.
And you release yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
That's
especially
good.
forgive yourself. Yes, a lot of people forgive others, but they forget to forgive themselves.
Oh, Francisca, talk about it, because that was I think the person that it took the longest, and I'm still working through certain things, was myself, to forgive myself for not being who I needed to be for myself. You know, we
Mhm.
talk about self-care and we talk about, being the best version of yourself and doing well for you. That doesn't always happen. And for someone who used to be a self-sabotager, I had to forgive myself for setting myself up for not success, for failure, even though
Yes.
it didn't happen.
Thank
But
you.
forgiveness of self, I mean, we could do a whole show on that, Brian.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Francisca, that is we gotta have you back again.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So my next question, and you have helped me. That I have to say, you've helped me. You have definitely helped me. Um, and as I was saying, I think last week I was like, I know I'm doing. I'm sharing while we wait, but I am keeping notes of so much because it's just in me to want to be the best version of myself. So my next question is how damage or is it damaging? And I know we all compare, but can it potentially be damaging when we compare ourselves to others who have a life that we think we want? Or just what is your take on that? If you're not even being, I guess if you're not even satisfied with the life that you have, but you're always looking at someone else and wanting, just longing and wanting, and when is my ship coming in? When is my boat coming in?
Yeah, first of all, you need to define, like, first of all, I want to know why you want to be the best version of yourself. Like, we can also obsess with becoming the best version for ourselves. And then you, the best version, what are you going to do with that version? If you have no vision, no goals, what are you going to do with the version of, So, first of all, define where you want to be. What type of life do you want? Like, where do you see yourself working with who? How do you show up? How is your relationship with this? How is your relationship with that? Like, define clearly where you want to go, and then take the first step, and then you become that version as you go, because you grow as you go. So
So
don't
what does it
stress
even look
like,
like?
oh, I need to be that version, that version before this and this can happen. Don't worry about that, it will happen.
What is that
Yeah.
song? Jonathan McReynolds sings it, I believe. Comparison kills. Because, like you were saying, you never know what's behind the closed door
You
of
don't
someone
know.
else's life. And so you might be admiring the outside package, having no idea. I was watching Shark Tank as I work, and there was a company that was selling empty boxes. So they had this great picture on the outside of what it was, but the box itself was empty. It was like a gag gift. And I was thinking, of course, I went deep and I was like, that's so interesting that some of the packages that we look at in other people, if you really opened it up, it's not what you think is behind there. Sometimes it's
Come on.
empty, sometimes it's full of pain, sometimes it's not full of pain, but it might not be your destiny or your purpose or your end game. And for me, I had to start with, what do I not want? So I would look at people and say, I know I don't want that. I don't know what I want, but that is not
That's
it.
not it.
That is not it. Okay, cross that off. And I'm a big believer that whatever you're seeking is seeking you. If
Yeah.
you are
Echo, echo.
ready for the lesson, the teacher will appear, whether that's a situation, a person, what have you. And so if you're being truthful and you're showing up in your life, and you're really on this self-development journey, best version of yourself, your life, whatever you call it, right? You will begin to define for yourself, like Francisco was saying, what do I want? That's like the first question. What do I want?
That's so good. It's so good. For that, you said we fall for others' false branding. So
Yes.
that's wonderful right there, because social media presents a whole smorgasbord of stuff.
Filters,
And
they don't even look
listen,
like that.
oh my God! I mean, and then can't compare yourself to what others are selling about themselves. May not be the truth. It's so true. Even with the influencers that we see influencers.
With those rented boats and those rented cars and those rented airplanes that they don't even own, or they're
Say,
$50 million in debt as they post a screenshot of someone else's capture of what they.
oh
Oh,
my
don't get me
goodness.
started.
And while
Yeah.
you're watching their lives, your life is passing by.
Yes, Francisca. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
It's so true. Um, and because social media, it can be wonderful. Yeah, it's a lie. It's a lie life. um, social media can be wonderful. Like for me, it's a wonderful tool. I am enjoying it. But if and sometimes if I'm on too much, I have to get off because it's almost like it's just like too much talking going on. But some of the stuff that you see, if you don't stay with truth, you can definitely get sucked into believing. And yeah, some stuff you'll be like, nah, I know that's fake, but some stuff you're like, well, God, how did they get that?
Some stuff, the advertising is really good. But again, comparison kills because, like Francisca said, time is going by. And while you're
Yeah.
paying attention to other people's lives, you're neglecting your own and you're not celebrating you and what's going well in your life and what you're building on. And it may be small, but guess
Yeah.
what? Everybody starts from zero. Everybody starts with nothing, and we all leave with nothing too. So, I mean,
That's the other end of the spectrum.
And
I
nobody's journey is smooth,
yes.
it's never smooth.
Life comes with its own set of troubles. I mean, that's the good book. That's the Bible, you know. So it's interesting because, and I can't quote it verbatim, but Proverbs even, there's a couple of verses that says it's better to live with this than riches, or da 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 da, or it's better to live with this, you know. So even Proverbs talks about how, and I'll come back to what you said, Francisca. You said, what does that look like for you? Or what does success look like for you? Or what is it that you really want? And I have to say that I was going through a really challenging time emotionally once, and I don't even know how I came upon the book, but it's called Happy, and it's by Doctor. I can't call his name, but he lives right here in our state in Darien. Oh, forgive me, Michelle, you're not here anymore. He lives in Connecticut, and what he began to talk about was what's really important. And it wasn't, of course, money answers everything under the sun, but that wasn't, and I think one of you brought it out before, and we know that if you've got money and you're sick, you can't buy your healing. If your money and your mind is not straight, you can't buy your mental sanity or your stability. So so this book was talking about what's really important, and that was a life changer for me, because I really started to think, what really makes me happy, or not even so much what makes me happy. When I had to determine it's a state of mind. I'm going to be happy, and I had to stay in gratitude and look at what I did have. And when you start looking at what you do have, and then the other thing was to begin to do things for other people. And it gives you a whole nother sense of gratitude, and fulfillment and satisfaction. So you do need to know, or start figuring out, what do you want your life to look like. And it took me a little while, but I have a good idea of what that is. Now I don't always know how to get there.
And happiness is not a place to get to, it's a place to come from. You're not
Thank you.
chasing happiness. You're happy today.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and gratitude is life changing. I talk about it in my book a lot. But for me, when I thought about, and this might sound morbid, but it is what it is. So death can be a muse. It's not something to be scared of. Well, for me, I'm not afraid of it, but I find it as a motivator. So when I leave the earth, what do I want people to say about me?
Hmm.
Who do I want to have been? What do I
Yeah.
want to have left behind? We're talking about legacy,
Yes.
earlier. And for me, that's a motivator, because if I know the end, where I want to get to at the end, then I can backtrack it and say, okay, well, if I want to be this type of person with this type of legacy, how do I get there by doing one thing today that gets me one step closer? If I need to be a kind person, how do I implement kindness today so that I make it part of who I am as just a natural habit? Like gratitude. I was a very rageful, angry person. I didn't have gratitude for nothing, you know. But when I was able to start a gratitude practice or a perspective, it started with, I'm grateful that I'm on this side of the dirt. That was all I had to be grateful for at that season in my life. That was it. Literally, there was nothing else in my life that was good that I was grateful for. But I
Mhm.
started with that. And because I had one thing, I could build on it. And that also built consistency muscle, discipline muscle, and things grow from there. And it allows you to discover who you are, because I didn't always know who I was, right?
Yeah.
But as you walk your life and you show up and you choose what perspective to have, you uncover who you really are. And then you can get to, when you're on your coaching call with Franziska and she says, well, what do you want? You'll be able to have an answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. True. Start with the end in mind. So I totally get what you're saying, Michelle. Yeah. I think it's one of the things I've had to do. I'm high energy. My mind is always going like this. If I get an idea, I could literally see my brain, sometimes it's just good to, and everybody's process is different of how they do things, but really just to sit down and maybe I don't you can ask questions out loud or even write the questions down because answers will come. I don't think we don't readily take the time to really. I'm gonna use a word that a very wise woman is using now, but contemplate. We don't really sit down and just contemplate
Yeah.
our
We need to
today.
slow down to speed up. We
Slow
never
down.
slow down.
Yeah,
If you don't slow down, you go, 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 and you do a lot of things at the same time. You make mistakes, you go in the wrong direction. Take your
yeah,
time, sit
yeah,
down. Just because you have a thought in your head doesn't mean you have to act immediately.
yeah, yeah. Being
And it doesn't mean
intentional.
it's yours. Sometimes
That's
thoughts
true.
come that don't belong to you, so you can
So
Right.
still
true.
thought.
So
Yeah.
true. But to be intentional with your move. So
Mm.
thinking
And
is so
ask yourself,
powerful.
why do you want that? Sometimes we need to be honest with yourself and say, why do I want that?
I've
Really?
had to do that. I've had to do that. And I'll just be transparent. And I've said this before that there was a couple of years, if that can help me, honestly, it looked like 18 or 20 people got married less than 2 years. And none of them, and that's how, listen, this is how While We Wait, this was the birthing of While We Wait from a conversation of the whole stigma thing of being an unmarried person. But everyone was not everyone. A lot of people were getting married. None of them were Generation X, which was a group of young ladies, and we're just like, okay, and we realized it wasn't the smartest persons getting married. It wasn't the best shapes getting married. It wasn't the ones with the most money. There was no most anything. It just people were getting married, and then you would look at yourself and be like, well, I'm okay. I had to stop because I was like, Brian, why do you want to get married? Is it because there are other people getting married? And then when I really stopped myself, I was like, I'm okay. So it was kind of just like in the moment of it was the rah rah, But I really, honest to God, I am, and I don't say that just throwing it out there. And I don't use this segment to try to get a man. And I'm really happy that we relaunched because I think some people were coming on because they thought I was going to hook them up or do a matchmaking, do a matchmaking.
Not that type of show, y'all. Not that type of
Negative,
show.
negative. And I've even had to tell. I've told someone who made their intentions to me, and I'm not. I don't shun marriage. I welcome it. Right time, right person. But it's on this side of maturity. There's a lot to consider for me. Um, because I work so diligently to get here, and my here is my thinking is correct. I'm not caught up in my emotions. I'm not angry. I have worked to get to a very good place in my life. And so sometimes you can want something because everybody else is doing it. What we said when we were children. Well, so and so's doing it. So
But the
you definitely.
representation is not always the reality as well. And people don't we should start a show about marriage. People don't talk about marriage in the real, like the for real.
Yeah.
Coming from someone who is married now for
Hmm.
14 years, it's a whole nother season of life,
Absolutely.
and
It's easy to get married.
Yes, you can get there.
Sometimes I find it amusing when I see weddings and everybody's so excited and like you haven't seen nothing yet. This is
Just
just the
getting started.
beginning.
Absolutely.
The
There's
challenge is in staying married.
yeah.
because
I mean,
who you date is not who you marry, and who you marry is not who you're married to, because you evolve as a person and change and grow within the relationship. A whole nother segment, but again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about the advertisement, right? And being truthful about what you want, why you want it, and really engaging in that conversation, and then creating it for yourself because it may look different than what it is for someone else.
creating, that is such a power word because we really are able to create our lives. And I can truly say that is because I am creating the life that I desire. It is work. And again, I have to say that one of the most powerful things you can do is either sit down and journal or really think about what you want, not what somebody wants for you, not what you see, because God is so amazing. he created every one of us so unique. So we can't go off of somebody else's life. And I think we do ourselves a great disservice when we reach into, reach for somebody else's life, because your life can be so wonderful.
It's so limiting because we only know what we know. We don't know what we don't know.
This
There
is
are
true.
things that when I moved, I was like, oh, wow, there's a whole world out there. I had no idea people live like this and do this and say that or think like this or whatever. And so you don't know what you don't know. And so when we box ourselves into someone else's reality or life or presentation, it limits you because you have no idea the creativity that could be residing in you to create something completely new and just to be a disruptor in this thing called life,
Yeah.
and be the happiest you can be.
And you know what? I have to shoot that back to Francisca when she told us, just the power that we have, that we possess, being able to leave Germany, and I believe you went to London, to
France,
to
now
France.
Spain.
See right there. That's power right there. That's power and courage. There's a whole lot to go with that, but you did it, and I applaud that so much.
Yeah. And sometimes I don't know how I did it, especially moving to London after school. I was really young, really stupid. I didn't bring any money with me. I did a lot of mistakes. It was really hard, really, really hard. And it completely changed who I am today.
Mhm.
But it's so worth it. It was so worth it. I mean, wow.
But
You grow.
we were literally created to solve problems. Like, we
Mm,
are the answer. And I'm finding even my day-to-day things, I'm learning not to go into, emotional, like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Because again, if you still yourself, of course we do pray, because the power of prayer is amazing, but we really were created, our minds, and I'm you can know it, you've heard it, but when you really begin to work the power of your mind and what you were created, we've got so much good stuff in us. Just the brain, the mind alone. I'm
yeah.
fascinated. I was just having a conversation today. I am fascinated with children now, because I'm looking at how, well, let me just say, my 2-year-old granddaughter out of nowhere just started speaking Spanish. She's doing the numbers from 1 to 10. Now, I don't know if it was from a cartoon or if she learned it in school, or we didn't know. She just started uno, dos, tres, and we're like, wait, what? Do it, say it again, So I'm looking at how much this is helping me even at this stage of my life. I'm looking at their brains and their little minds, and how much they're like sponges, and how much they can absorb, and then they replay it. So I found out, she spends the night with me once a week. Before she goes to bed, a lot of times she's just laying there and she's saying whatever she's learned out loud, whether she's counting. So she's replaying. That brain is still active, and I'm
Well,
just
when we
looking at. I'm
sleep,
like,
that's what our brains do as well. They put into folders our day, our memories, and
mhm.
we only use scientifically, I think it's less than 30% of our brain capacity. And even as
Yeah,
adults, they're finding out that you can still have some of that malleability that children have to learn and grow and develop those new neural pathways. As
yeah.
adults, you can also do that and train your brain as well. So it's never too late. Never.
I,
And I
I
used to
love
speak
it.
Spanish I used to speak Spanish fluently when I was 3 and I lived in
Wow.
DC with my mother, and then I forgot it, and then I spoke Hebrew fluently and I forgot it too. But sometimes I'll find myself understanding when people are speaking it or just coming out with words and speaking, and I'm like, oh wow, it's still in there.
Wow. I just think it's amazing. And I look at how much just what you're saying, that about the percentage that we use, how much of our lives
Hmm.
and our power that we waste, our gifts, our talent, our abilities. And I've literally put myself on, I love 911, the series. And I have put myself on my series fast. If my TV's on, it's either something I need to learn with music on YouTube, or I'll put on Family Feud because it's just, mindless noise for me sometimes. And I really just started saying, and I did it this week. This was week 1. How much can I absorb, or what can I get in me, or what can I learn? What can I do that's going to benefit myself for the rest of my life if I make this sacrifice? So I'm certain I'm going to do it another week because I'm enjoying it. But there's, and I'm saying all of this because all of this is assisting with becoming the best version of you. And I don't know if you ever get to your best version because we're ever evolving. So I don't know if there's a particular there. It doesn't have to be. Like I never want to be stagnated. Like I see myself as this seasoned woman, and I'm talking when I get years. I see myself, and that's the thing. The power of seeing so you can create. I see myself as still being a youthful, aged woman, but full of wisdom and powerful. Like I want to be. Well, I don't want to be her, but I liked the way that Cicely Tyson and Maya Angelou, how they just it's like they were always spitting out wisdoms like that. I love that. Like I believe being smart and wise, sophisticated. Like there's just something about that. I mean, we can do a lot of low life things, but I want to tell you what, in my maturity, I'm like, you know what? I like this. So
But
that's
then
what
the question is also, what are you going to do with this wisdom? How are you going to put it into action? Because a lot of people, they go from here to there. They learn this, they learn that, but they never put it into action because they never have clarity. It's like a big mess in their head. And then,
sure.
moving on a year, 2 years, 3 years, you're still in the same place. And
Yeah.
that's where the problem comes in.
So not just a bunch of knowledge, and not just a bunch of wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing, but I wisdom because I believe I said it on the last time. I know that where I'm at in my life is this is my season. I don't know when it started it, but to make deposits into younger generations or whoever needs it. I find myself being able to give some form of a wisdom, um, whether it's a principle. Just like today, I was talking about and it's not something that I'm like, hey, you, let me tell you this. It kind of just like comes up in conversations because of whatever the subject matter is. And this lady was like literally leaning up against the wall, like, wow, I mean, and it wasn't anything deep or prolific. It was just, stuff that I've either done or I've experienced or I have things I have a wisdom about. So I just is
But to Francisca's point, in the Bible, I think it's Proverbs, it might be Ecclesiastics, where it says knowledge is a burden. And I remember reading that scripture and it bothered me because I was like, I didn't get it. I was like, God, I don't understand. How can knowledge be a burden? But when you know something and you don't do anything with it, it becomes very heavy because knowledge is not only for you. And, to Francisca's
yeah,
point, how are you implementing
yeah.
what you know, either for yourself or for someone else? How are you implementing that wisdom? What are you doing with it to contribute? Because as you mentioned earlier, Bryant, service is one of those higher level successes in life, right? Not everybody has the opportunity to serve because sometimes if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you got to get your basic needs first. And then once you have your basic needs and you fill your bucket, then you can start to give out from what you have. You can't give what you don't have. I can't
True.
give you a loaf of bread if I don't have any bread. I can't give
True.
you a car if I don't have a car, And so acquiring is great, but what do you do once you have it? And I think, Francisca, that's such an important point to bring out. How are you implementing? What are you doing with what you're gathering in your life?
Well, it has to be implemented. You know, knowledge. What do they say? Knowledge is power. Well, knowledge is not power unless it's implemented. So you do have to do something with it. Not just so I can say, oh, I speak 10 languages. I've got all of these degrees, and I'm doing absolutely nothing. So it has to be applied. Um, I want to apply it, but I also want to share it with whoever needs to be shared with. And not to sound like a know-it-all. I don't want to sound like a know-it-all. I want it to be something beneficial.
Well,
That I
you know
can,
what you know, and there's people who are assigned to you and that you're assigned to learn what you know. And then
sure.
you're assigned to other people to gather what they know. And it's like, I think of it as like this big community. And going back to that comparison conversation, if you don't develop who you are, the rest of us lose out because we're waiting for you to give and to serve us with who you are so we can serve you with who we are, and we can all become better people and contribute. And I mean, imagine where this world would be if everybody functioned in their assignment, success, purpose, whatever word you're going to put on it, but really truly were in the truth of who they are, walking in service with gratitude. Can you imagine what kind of world we'd be living in?
Yeah. Yeah. It would be amazing if we were all in our places.
Yes, and we were all in the right car, in the right lane, on the right highway, driving at the right speed, waving to each other.
I wouldn't have a job.
This is, well, you know what? You're gonna be so wealthy because what you're doing is never gonna go. Is never will never be outdated. I don't care if everything goes digital. I don't care if soft money turns into digital. I don't care if whatever happens. Your profession will forever be here because we need somebody to work with these minds. You know.
Absolutely. And you know what I love too is Franziska and I coach in the same space, but we each have our different style. And I don't talk about it much. But you know, who is attracted to Franziska and who is assigned to her is different than who's assigned to me and who's attracted to me. And that's the beauty of we can be in the same space, in the
Absolutely.
same arena, bringing different things to contribute to the better whole. And what a gift that is to everyone.
It is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, totally.
And that's why there never has to be competition.
Exactly.
Like everyone has their own edge. So you
We
can do the
all
same.
win.
That absolutely. And again, you know what I've been hearing is about collaboration. So I'm loving this, and it's funny that even the podcast group that um,
Yeah.
I met, you got, well, Michelle, you were, but it's called the Podcast Collaboration Group. And I have to say, and I keep saying that I've met some amazing people. I mean, like people like Franziska and
Lisa
Tina,
Zarotny,
yeah,
CL King. I know they've been on the show.
CL King, and what's the one? Come on, man, Chris. I can't think of his last name right at the moment. He wrote the book Come On Man. Is it Chris Richards? Anyway, Mr. Chris. But these are people that I can see being lifetimers. And I don't believe anything happens by happenstance. So I honestly believe some of these connections will certainly last me a lifetime because I am really, really enjoying. I'm loving it now, actually. I am absolutely loving it. And I'm going to wrap it up. And again, because Franziska I forgot how many hours ahead of us. So it is nighttime there.
Yeah,
And,
11:30.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, Franziska, I want to say thank you. And I know you'll be back. There's so much to discuss. I mean, this is never ending. But I do thank you for your time. I thank you for your expertise with this. And I will talk to you in a few hours.
Yeah.
So thank you so very much again. I don't even take it for granted. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies, for having me.
Absolutely.
I loved it.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you. I don't know.
Bye.
It'll be morning for me. I don't know what it'll be for you. So
Just
tomorrow.
say soon.
Like
Just say
midday.
soon.
Okay. Yep. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.
Bye, Michelle.
Sleep well.
You too, guys. Bye.
Oh man, this is something I could just go on and on and on. And this is there's just so much.
Well, the rabbit hole goes so deep,
Yeah.
and it's such a beautiful synergy, I think, which is what makes the conversation so epic because, again, just what we were talking about, everybody brings something different, and it's a beautiful tapestry of a conversation. And what a great space that you hold for people, Brian. This is evolving into such an amazing space that if you're listening, if you're watching, you do not want to miss an episode because it just gets better and better.
Thank you, Michelle.
It's the truth. I only speak the truth.
And I appreciate you being here. Facebook, YouTube, I appreciate you being here. And for those that will come back and watch the replay, and to my podcast listeners, thank you for downloading. Thank you for your interest in what we have to say on While We Wait. And I trust that it will be beneficial for you or for someone that you might need to have someone else come and watch this because they need the information. So, I always say, be strong, be wise, keep enhancing your life because life really is worth living. And I know life happens really fast, sometimes without permission, but we were built for this. So, Michelle, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you, thank you, thank you for riding with me.
Always riding for life. This is the place
Absolutely.
I want to be every Thursday at 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central. You want to be here too, and I can't wait for the next episode.
Absolutely. And we're back with Michelle next week. And Michelle and I are going to be, I think we're going to tap into that forgiveness thing. But either way,
Ooh.
we will be back.
It's gonna be good.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you being here. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. I don't know where you're located, so whether it's day, afternoon, or evening, have a great rest of your day and be well.
I stay wise. I enhance my life. I stay strong. I stay wise. I'll enhance.